Hello everyone, welcome to Neso Academy. We have completed chapter number 5, Object-Oriented Programming in C++. Now we are in chapter number 6 and the name of this chapter is Constructors and Destructors. In this chapter, we will properly understand constructors and destructors. We are starting this chapter with this lecture and the name of this lecture is Default Constructor. So without any further delay, let's get started with this lecture and let's see what are the topics. The first topic of this lecture is Introduction to Constructors. First, I will introduce you to constructors because this is the first time you are encountering constructors. Then we will move to the second topic where we will understand default constructor properly. So these are the topics of this lecture. Let's start with the first topic, that is Introduction to Constructors. So what are constructors? Before understanding what are constructors, let's first understand through an example program why do we need constructors. Here is the example program. Here I have defined this class student with private members, roll number and name. Name is of type string and that is why string header file is included. These are the public member functions, setData and display. SetData function allows us to set values for roll number and name via parameters r and n. And this is the display function that allows us to display roll number and name on the screen in a specific format. Here is the main function, and in this main function I have defined the object of the class student. Here you can observe the object name is S. And through this object, I am calling the setData function and I am providing values 101 and Bob to roll number and name respectively. This means I am initializing this object. Providing values to the private members via an object is same as initializing the object. Also, I am calling the display function through the S object. This means roll number will be replaced by 101 and name will be replaced by Bob. We will see the output roll number as 101 and name as Bob. I hope this is clear to you. Till now, we are setting the values of the private members via an object through a function, and that too a member function. This is what we were doing till now. This is how we were initializing an object, in other words. This is what I have mentioned here. But this is not how C++ wants this. This is against the main goal of C++. Do you know what is the main goal of C++? The main goal of C++ is to make the user-defined data type mimic the behavior of the built-in data type. We know what are built-in data types. Integers, floats, characters, these are built-in data types. Let's say we define a variable of type integer. We do not have to call the function to initialize the variable. We can initialize the variable directly via the assignment operator. But here, when we define an object of the user-defined type, which is a class, then we need to call the function to initialize the object. This means the user-defined data type at this moment is not mimicking the exact behavior of the built-in data type. In order to initialize the object of a user-defined data type, we need to call a function explicitly. This is not what we want. This is not the main goal of C++. In order to achieve the main goal of C++, that is, making the user-defined data type mimicking the behavior of built-in data type, we have something called constructors in C++. This is the reason why we need to study constructors, because constructors allows us to initialize objects without the need to call functions explicitly. I hope this is clear to you. Now let's understand what are constructors. Here is the definition of the constructor. A constructor is a special member function that is used to initialize objects of its class. It is a member function, but it is a special type of member function that is used to initialize objects of its class. Now, why are we calling this a special member function? The reason is simple. It has the same name as the class and it does not have a return type. Also, it is invoked automatically when an object of the class is created. So when we create an object of the class, it will be invoked or called automatically. We do not have to call the constructor on our own explicitly. It has the same name as the class and it does not have a return type. That is why it is called a special member function. I hope this is clear to you. Through a constructor, we can initialize objects of its class. And this can be done without the need of calling the function explicitly. So in this way, we can mimic the behavior of a built-in data type through a user-defined data type. Also, most commonly it is declared under public access specifier. We do not usually declare it under the private access specifier, although we can do this. But mostly we declare a constructor under the public access specifier. So that's the concept of constructors. Now let's see what are the different types of constructors we have in C++. We have many different types of constructors. But in this course, we will study 4 major types of constructors. These are the 4 major types. The first one is default constructor. The second one is parameterized constructor. The third one is copy constructor. And the fourth one is move constructor. So these are the major types of constructors we have in C++, which we will study in this chapter. In this lecture, we will understand default constructor properly. For now, we are done with the introduction to constructors. This means we are done with this topic. Now let's move to the second topic to understand default constructor properly. Now, what is the default constructor? Default constructor is the constructor that gets called or invoked automatically when an object is created without providing any arguments. Default constructor is just like a normal constructor. It gets called when an object is created. But it is called the default constructor because we do not supply parameters to the constructor and therefore it does not accept any arguments. Now let's see how we can define a default constructor in C++ through an example program. Here is the example program. I have defined this class student with private members, roll number and name. These are public member functions, student and display. Here you can observe this is not the normal member function. This member function does not have a return type. Also, the name of this member function is same as the name of the class. So it is the constructor. This is the special type of member function that is used to initialize objects of its class. I hope this is clear to you. And this is the default constructor because it does not accept any arguments because it does not have any parameters. Here you can observe that this default constructor is providing default values to roll number and name. Roll number will receive value 0 and name will receive unknown. I hope this makes sense to you. So, through the default constructor, we can provide default values to private members via an object. We do not have to call this function explicitly. It will be called when we will create the object of this class. Here is the member function display with return type as void. This allows us to display roll number and name in a specific format on the screen. This is the definition of the main function. Inside this main function, I have created this object S. Because the object S is created, the constructor will be invoked. It will be invoked automatically, and therefore roll number will receive 0 and name will receive the string unknown. These values are associated with this object. So this object is initialized without the need of calling the function on our own. So here we are mimicking the behavior of a built-in data type. As soon as the object is created, it is initialized with values. Now here I'm calling the display function through the S object. And due to this reason, this roll number will be replaced by 0 and name will be replaced by the string unknown. So when we execute this program, we will get the output roll number as 0, name as unknown. I hope this is completely clear to you. So in this way, we can define a default constructor. Now here is a question for you. What do you think? What happens when we do not define the default constructor? Default constructor is then provided by the compiler. This is what I have written here. If constructor is not defined, then compiler will provide the default constructor on its own. And through the default constructor, compiler will provide garbage values to the private members except the string variable. The string variable will receive the empty string. Here is the example program we took before as well, but this time we do not have the constructor. The default constructor is provided by the compiler as there is no constructor here. Now through that default constructor, roll number will receive a garbage value and this name variable will receive an empty string. Here I have created the object of class student. Therefore, the default constructor provided by the compiler gets invoked, and this means roll number will receive the garbage value and name will receive the empty string. And because we are calling the display function through the S object, we will see this output on the screen. In my case, I am receiving this garbage value. In your case, you may receive a different value. But the point to note here is that this is the garbage value. And the name variable has received the empty string. That is why we are not seeing anything over here. So with this, we have properly understood default constructors. And this means we are done with this topic also. And we are done with this lecture. Okay friends, this is it for now. Thank you for watching this lecture. I will see you in the next one.